So today is an interesting topic, the convulsionaries, and we have to think of why Kardec put this topic in this book. That seems to be an isolated event that happened in France in the 1800s. We are dealing with a topic in this book now that is intervention of the spirits in the physical world. And even the topical shadows reflects why the convulsionaries is part of this book and it's part of this specific chapter that deals with intervention of the spirits in the physical world. So I think we can, we'll just read the first question now, Philip, and then we'll talk a little bit about the convulsionaries.
481. Do spirits play a role in the phenomena exhibited by individuals called convulsionaries?
Yes.
Yes, a very important one, just like magnetism, which is the original source of these phenomena. Charlatans have inflated these effects and made them a matter of speculation, which has demeaned them. What is the general nature of spirits who help produce this type of phenomena? Not very elevated? Do you think that higher spirits would waste their time in such a manner?
Okay, thanks. So what is this, the convulsionaries? In the Spiritist Magazine Review of November 1859, there is a topic of the convulsive of some method. What is this convulsionaries thing that we're talking about? So what happened is that there was this priest in France, in Paris, Francois Paris, that he kind of became famous in Paris for all that he have done. He died in 1727. And he was the son of a famous, prestigious parliament councillor. And he was supposed to follow the father steps and seek the politician career, but he chose to the ecclesiastic field and become a priest and become quite a noticeable priest because of his great teaching abilities and conferences and speaking, and he was very good at teaching the catechism and was also lined up to go up on ascendance in the Catholic hierarchy. He was very well seen by the bishops. They want to know, elevated him higher and higher level in the Catholic hierarchy. There was just one problem with that. He had dedicated himself to seclusion. He have chosen to seclude himself, and he did so. He got a little house in the neighborhood, and there he started to seclude himself and gave himself totally to prayers, rigorous penitence. He used to do a lot of penitences and a lot of manual labor. And one of the things I used to do is make socks for the poor. He assisted a lot of people, even in seclusion. People would come to him, or you'd speak to them, but he would not leave the house. He was there completely all the time. And he died in, again, I said already, 1727. And his brother became quite rich because when the father was a prominent politician died and divided the fortune between him and the brother, him himself, who had already been made a vote of poverty and seclusion, gave all his wealth, or everything that was supposed to be his part from the father, he gave to the brother. So the brother was well financially. So when this priest died, and Francois Paris, his brother built for him a large mausoleum to bury him in this cemetery that is called Saint Method. And that's why the title, or you'll see very often if you look online, if you search for the Convulsionaries, you come in as Convulsionaries of Saint Method, because that's where those events placed. So what happened is a lot of poor people and some who had been helped by him, and a huge number of women, actually, they say there was very good women, would go to his tomb, to his mausoleum to pray. And it so that it start have some so-called miraculous event. It start to happen in that place. Some healings, some sick people was healed by praying over there, that mausoleum. And with that, some events of convulsions also began to happen. People to go into convulsions, and how would I describe convulsions? Here would be a seizure-like episode. I don't know if everybody's anyone having a seizure, have epilepsy, that the whole body goes into a frenzy of movements, and sometimes associated with words, with not words, no, with sounds, not really words, with sounds, sometimes not. And it's almost like the brain is going out of whack. In reality, that's exactly what's happening. It's a seizure is electrical arrhythmia in the brain, basically. So it's called also convulsion, and those activities happening around that mausoleum resembled those convulsions, and that's why they are called convulsionaries. And of course, when there is so-called miracles happening, it does attract the curious and attract those who want souls to be healed. And this things start become really big. The Catholic Church kind of condemned. It becomes so big that the authorities needed to stop it, put a stop on it. And the one way to do so was to close the cemetery altogether. So they shut down the cemetery somewhat, but the convulsionaries did not stop. They start to assemble in private properties, go to people's house, get together, and those convulsions will take place the same way, the same seizure-like activities, and all kinds of what's happening. From time to time, they would get together in a public square and start doing the thing until the police would come in and break it up, and eventually, slowly, the movement disappeared. But things were happening, and if I'm actually gonna read from the Spirit magazine, what really was happening over there, and it says here that below us some of the strange phenomena presented by the composers of Saint Method. One, they would have the faculty of withstanding huge blows that human bodies should be smashed by. They were able to speak of unknown language or forgot by them. They would have the faculty of an extraordinary development of intelligence. The most ignorant among them improvised speech about grace, the evils of the church, the end of the world, and so on. The faculty of reading the mind. Once in touch with the deceased, discarnate, They experienced the pain exactly in the same places where the sick persons fell down. So those who discarnate with a certain kind of disease would experience that kind of pain. And during that state of trance, the trance, the incarnate ones would feel the localized pain just like the deceased had at one time, or perhaps still had. It was very frequent to hear them predicting several abnormal phenomena that should follow up the development of the disease. So they would kind of preview diseases that was going to happen in the future. And he continues here just to finish it up. The physical insensitivity produced by ecstasy gave them place to atrocious scenes. Madness come to the point of crucifying the unfortunate victims, of make them feel every detail of the passion of Christ. Those victims, in fact, the fact is attested by the most authentic witness, demanded terrible tortures designated among the compulsive by the name of great help. The cure of the sick took place by the simple touch of the tomb, or the dust spread around which was taken with any drink or directly applied onto the ulcers. Those cures, in large numbers, are attested by thousands of witnesses, many of whom are people of science who were actually incredulous, registering the fact but not knowing what to attribute to them. So that's what the convulsionaries is all about. One apparently individual phenomena that happened that is registered in the annals of history. You see that mostly in history than in spirituality or spiritism itself. And it's been proved the individuals had been cured by whatever was happening over there. But at the same time, there was tremendous abuses, them, as one would expect. There will always be the opportunistic rats to make use of the situation as well. It was indeed necessary to stop it, besides the cures, because of all the abuses and all the scandals that was happening around it. And I know you guys might have some questions, but let us go to the Q&A from Kardec here, because I think some of those questions will be answered. (482).
Okay. How can the abnormal state of convulsionaries and hysterical individuals suddenly strike an entire population? By sympathetic effect. Moral dispositions are communicated quite easily in certain cases. Surely you are not so unaware of the effects of human magnetism that you are unable to understand this. There is also the natural role of certain spirits in such occurrences, through an attunement with those by whom they are produced.
Right.
Somnambulism and magnetism show us numerous examples of bizarre behavior identical to the ones convulsionaries display. These include physical insensitivity, thought reading, sympathetic transmission of pain, and so on. This makes it impossible to doubt that these hysterical individuals are experiencing some sort of wakened somnambulism, determined by the influence that they inadvertently exercise upon each other. At the same time, they are both magnetizers and magnetized without even realizing it.
Thanks. So can convulsions and fits suddenly strike an entire population? we are all aware that our energy, thought, travel in its specific area, and we'll find affinities. And we can create a current of thought, just as when we pray together, right? We create a communion of thought, and we create one power focus of energy guided at something. That is the idea of church. That is the idea of assembling together, right? We have seen cases, so I have myself experienced, that you go to a show, to a concert, and it's not really your kind of thing, but once you're over there, you get involved by the energy that you actually enjoy it. Just last month, I went to a concert, actually the kind of thing that I like, but the sound was horrible. And just when the show started, the first thing that came to my mind, oh my goodness, the sound here is really bad. They are really make no justice to the music with this bad quality of sound. And I had a choice. I'm gonna spend my time here, complain of it, and I'm gonna be able to resolve, or I will get into it. And that's what I did. And I was involved by the energies in the ambient of the, I don't know, 1,000 people, whatever people inside there. And all of a sudden it becomes a great show. And the bad quality of sound, I doubt it improved, but I didn't care anymore. I was involved by the communion of thoughts, the association of all the energies of everybody joined that concert, that to me, it became enjoyable. I did not do it, but I'm sure that if I get a recording of that show, brought it home, and listen to it, I would not go beyond the first music and say it is horrible, the quality of the sound is deplorable, I have to listen to this. But in there, surrounded by everyone over there, I didn't have that quality of thought. Because I was involved, I was in a communion of thought, involved by the energies, that I was able to enjoy the sound. Recently, a couple of months ago, in a school in the state of Pernambuco, Brazil, there was an event of collective panic attack, inexplicable. There was story was done why those people, why those kids, young teenagers, all became sick, start panicking, and now with tachycardia, all the signs of panic, of anxiety, without any obvious explanation of what happened. And I still did not know. But more than half of the classroom gathered at the same time, and it ran away at the same time as well. There was something in common of those individuals that led them to that panic attack-like syndrome that they all experienced. Some of them had to be medicated, calmed down, and everything else. So the explanation from this period is that it happens out of sympathy, or perhaps out of empathy, that we can, at times, feel the pain of all loved one, and those things can be almost like contagious, and the energy of those who are in that communion of thought. So the Convulsionaries, because this is the top of the Convulsionaries, since that priest that they were praying to dedicated himself to those penitences, to what we call flagellation, or perhaps even auto-flagellation, they all would start with repeating what that priest would do. And that communal of thought, they would go and get involved and get in the state of convulsion, that you allow them to do everything that you just spoke about that could have done over there. Now, the main source for this happening is magnetism, is what we all have, right? The energy that we have within us, not spiritual energy, but us, right? But it's always associated with spirits, because again, we are always surrounded by spirits, and there will always be spirits that are sympathetic to our intentions or to our objectives that will help us to accomplish that. Right, as we say, that if I choose that I want to rob a bank, I'm sure the spirits are sympathetic with the idea and guide me towards that. If I'm communal individuals with the common thought of those penitences, of those prayers, they will have spirits that are also sympathetic to those goals or their ideas, and they will inflate what's already there, which is very important. So there is the magnetic, which is the main source, is what we have. With that, you associated the help from the spiritual world, the spiritual assistance, and things are happen in community in this way. Okay, common questions? Okay, so when Kardec explains over here, some of the reasons magnetism show us numerous examples of bizarre behaviors identical to the model of ones the Convulsionaries display. These include a physical insensitivity, that's basic anesthesia. These are individuals who are able to undergo some serious blows to the body, apparently without feeling any pain. We see that with the fanatics during the time of the Quaresma, they perform those penitences, and when they go and represent the Christ, or the martyr of Christ on the way to the cross, they will actually beat themselves up, or they'll have others doing for them, with things that outside of normal life everyone would not tolerate, and those individuals tolerated like nothing. Tremendous amount of pain. You know, they cut themselves, the whole back is bleeding, and they go through that whole event apparently without physical pain, what Kardec calls a physical insensitivity. In that state of expansion of themselves, they are able to read thoughts. They are able to have tremendous amount of sympathy in the transmission of sensations. You know, I can feel your pain, I can feel your sorrow, I can feel your happiness, I can feel your ecstasy, because we are all sharing that same communum of thought over there. That leads us to think, you know, taking it a little bit to ourselves, to what's our responsibility when we are in these spaces. You know, we can do two things. We can not break the chain, not be the broken aloe in that chain, right? Or you can, and we are, donor and receivers of these energies. That's why I'd say that we are at the same time a magnetic healer and the subject healed. That's why in our spiritual center on our Mondays, preparation for the passes on the spiritual treatment is spiritual healing, sorry, I offer says that it's our responsibility, the success or the lack of success of each one of us inside there. That I carry the responsibility of the good that happens to me as well as the good that happens to everyone inside over there. It's as much as I am responsible for the non-success of the attempt of the good spirits to help us. Because we may break that chain of energy, because we may be an element that not allow the success of what we intend to do over there. Questions, comments? Okay, 483.
What is the cause of physical insensitivity sometimes observed in convulsionaries and even in other people when subjected to the most brutal torture? In some cases, it is simply an exclusively magnetic effect, which acts upon the nervous system as certain substances do. In other cases, mental excitement stifles the sensitivity of the body, with life seeming to withdraw from the body to concentrate on the spirit. Have you not observed that when the spirit is intensely concerned with any matter, the body neither feels, nor sees, nor hears? The excitement of fanaticism and enthusiasm often offer by individuals subject to tortures examples of a tranquility that could hardly trump excruciating pain unless the sensitivity of the patient was diffused by some kind of anesthetic effect. In the heat of battle, a severe wound is often obtained without being noticed, while a mere scratch is intensely felt under ordinary circumstances. Since these phenomena are due to both the action of physical causes and that of spirits, one may wonder how public authorities in some cases were able to stop them. The answer is very simple. The action of spirits is only secondary. They do nothing more than take advantage of a natural predisposition. Public authorities did not overcome this predisposition, but rather the cause that stimulated it, reducing it from an active state to a latent one. They are right in doing this because the phenomena was the impetus for exploitation and scandal. This interference, however, is ineffective when the action of spirits is direct and spontaneous.
Thanks. So we need to consider here that, and this leaves that very clear, that the senses, the feelings, the emotions, and reality belongs to the spirit, not to the physical body. The physical body is an instrument to express the spirit. So taking away the automation processes, things that the body does on its own, everything else comes from the spirit. And by the automation, we know heart rate, controlling of blood pressure in our barrel centers, control of temperature, in our body when you have fever, do not have, or you have hypothermic or hyperthermic. This is pretty much automated. The physical body, in association with the spirit, of course, seek to do as much as possible of things in an automated fashion. there is a part of the brain that's responsibility basically is to kind of figure out repeated actions in a way that when it figures this out, we do it almost without thinking. The example I always use is walking forward. We get up and we walk forward almost instantaneously, almost as without any thought. You don't know if you put the right or the left foot first. You don't know if you use the heel or the front of the foot first. We just do it, just get up and walk. Because there's a part of the brain who figured this out. There is the way that we do it consistently, and we are basically do it automatically. If I ask you how do you get into your car, you have to think. You probably don't know how you get into your car, but you do it every time, basically the same way, every single time, because the body has figured this out, and you don't have to think about it. Now, how do you eat your food? How do you hold your fork when you hold the soup? You have to think about it, but when you sit down to eat, you don't have to think about it. You just do it. So these are things that's pretty much automated already. And the brain does that to save energy. And again, nature is extremely frugal. It tries to preserve energy as much as possible. Unfortunately, that's why we get fat. But outside of those things, everything is from the spirit. So pain, if you touch something that it's hot, you're gonna send a signal to the brain, says his finger, the finger touched something hot, and it's gonna send a command down, take your fingers off immediately, right? Pretty much automated. In normal situations, if you're neuropathic, you're gonna lose your finger because you're gonna lack in that communication with the brain. But we can bypass that. The spirit can bypass that. You may be not neuropathic, you may be neuronormal, so to say, and you put your hand on something that is hot that normally you took your hands off immediately, but you'll be able to keep it there, not feeling anything. And that's pretty much what Kardec's asking here. What causes this? That insensitivity, this crazy anesthesia that the convulsionaries would be able to do, to be able to be subject to some brutal torture and apparently without any pain. It is exactly because the brain or the body, the spirit, is somewhat disconnected from the body or demands from the body that it do not act in its normal way. The normal way to push your hand to not tolerate so much torture, but the spirit can bypass that automation process and kind of block the pain mechanism, because indeed it's the brain that feels the pain. It's the spirit that feels the pain, right? In association with the brain when we are incarnate. In a state of trance created by this fanaticism and enthusiasms, people are able to do things that they would not do in other situations. I remember one time when I was playing soccer as a kid, of course, playing soccer barefoot in Brazil, and I think I was like 14 or 15, I don't know. And running around playing soccer, just concentrating on the game itself, and we all noticed that there was blood on the floor. There's just patches of blood all over the place, and everybody's running, and somebody's bleeding. Something's going on over here. And all of a sudden, somebody told me, "Oh, it's you." It's you what? You're the one who's bleeding. I said, "You're crazy." There's nothing wrong with me. I continue to play. So One of my friends actually put their hand on my chest and stop, stop, just look at you. And then when I look at my foot, it was bleeding a big cut. Have no idea how it happened, never felt anything, absolutely nothing. Of course, as at the time that I saw that big cut, it actually requires internal and external suturing, was really deep cut. I start feeling pain immediately. And why is that? Because my elbow spirit was completely disconnected from whatever was happening. I was so concentrated in the game itself that I didn't feel any pain. That is a simple example. Exactly. The one Kardec uses here, someone who, in the battlefield, more concerned with catching the enemies or protecting his colleagues, soldiers over there, may get shot and continue doing things that otherwise would not be able to do it. So it happens because we, the spirit, are the one who's really in command. And when the spirit takes off or guides its attention to something else, we'll be able to endure things that normally would not be able to do. Here we finish the top of the convulsionaries. But I have said that why Kardec brings the book of Convulsionaries seems like an isolated episode that happened in that period in France. Because in reality, he's using the Convulsionaries here as an example of any kind of community affair in which all the individuals gather together with that communion of thought. There will be that exchange of magnetic energy. Again, the example was able to enjoy a concert that would like, though otherwise would not enjoy the music if I live somewhere else. But in that communion with those people who were there to enjoy that show, I was able to bypass the bad quality of sound and enjoy the show. That happens with any other kind of gathering. And we have, let's say, something is very well documented, the so-called speak of tongues, right? That some Christian sects of Protestants practice. I know for sure the Pentecostals do it because I was able to witness one of that. I have read today the Methodists also may have the speak of tongue, which is believed to be that when the Holy Spirit speaks through them, they will speak gibberish, basically. They will make sounds and even not necessarily convulsions, but the body will go all kinds of movements as well that they do in their churches. I was able to witness one in the Pentecostal church in which when it was time to do that, the pastor would give the signal and someone would start having speaking or making sounds, perhaps repeated syllables. And then it would go to another person, usually next to that one, to the first one, and go forth and so on. It would spread it. Majority of the people were there would do that speaking of tongue. Now, naturally, you would imagine that some was really into that state, that trance state that they were receiving perhaps spiritual information at that time. Some of them would just follow because they don't want to be seen as they did not receive the Holy Spirit, so to say, and they would mimic what others were doing. But in general, people they actually get into that state of trance and do those kinds of things. That may happen in amongst individuals who, like most of us, are followers. We start following a ritual or a cult, and start to behave the way that they expect us to do so. And at the time, once that's over, we even question why they do that. That was weird. I don't remember even started doing it, just did it because we are being involved by those magnetic energies from one another. And always you have the participation um, of spirits associated with it. Now the question is, what kind of spirits? And the question it was placed by Kardec as well, and the answer is not very evolved spirits. But we have to make sure they're not very evolved doesn't mean evil spirits, right? Because that's what is the general nature of the spirits who help to produce this type of phenomena. The answer is not very elevated. Do you think that the higher spirits would waste their time with such manners? Not very elevated does not mean bad or evil or with evil intentions. It's just not very elevated. Perhaps individuals who believe in those kinds of ritualistic behaviors. Perhaps spirits like if now incarnate, I believe that rituals make me receive Jesus or receive whatever God I pray to. Once I discard it and go back to spiritual world, I'm not going to change. Continue to have those beliefs until I learn better. But definitely not high order spirits. In that Spiritist magazine, the priest, François Paré, was actually evoked. Second part of our study today, the Minos book. Once he discarnated, he was actually evoked. And Kardec asked questions for him. And Kardec asked him exactly this question. The answer was the same, not very evolved. And Kardec asked, did you participate on those? And said, absolutely not. They didn't even get close to it. So they were playing at his tomb. The miracles was being attributed to him. And then he had nothing to do with it. And not really happy about all the answers they got from this spirit, Kardec evoked another spirit. It was St. Vincent de Paul. Later on, he evoked St. Vincent de Paul and then told St. Vincent de Paul. See, que quote here. Last session, we evoked the Beacon Paré, who kindly came to us. You'd like to have your personal opinion about him as a spirit. So Kardec was not very confident in the answer he got from the priest François Paré, and he asked a confirmation from St. Vincent de Paul, who confirmed, that priest had nothing to do with anything that was happening over there. Whatever phenomenon was happening, or whatever cure was happening attributed to him, had nothing to do with him. The only thing that had to do with him was the bones that was under the earth in that place. And the phenomenon can be proved if it was healed. And what I'm trying to say here, if the spirits that were associated with that were able to assist those individuals who merited the assistance, were not really elevated spirit, but was not bad spirits. It actually helped others. And could also have been cured by just pure magnetic energies over there. Because magnetism also can cure. Okay, questions, comments, and confusionaries, because we finished it here now. Okay, so I think the take home for us is that not only the confusionaries, anywhere that we gather as a group, we have the responsibility with what we do with our energy. how we engage, become a part of the phenomenon, we walk away as soon as we can. I personally believe that there might be a point of no return, that if you think you control yourself, comes to a point that you may be involved by those energies so much that you will not have a way out of it. And now we move to the affliction of spirits, for the affection of spirits for certain individuals, if not, there's no questions.
484. Do spirits affectionately prefer certain individuals? Good spirits sympathize with all good men and women, or those who are capable of betterment. Lower order spirits sympathize with those who are bad or who may become such. In either case, the bond is a consequence of the similarity of thoughts and ideas.
Okay. I think the good news for our ears is the Spirit give us the hope by saying that good spirits sympathize with all good men and women and those who are capable of bearing it. Because if it was only with men and women who are good, we would be in some serious trouble, right? But it also open for those who are capable of bearing it. And that's what I think most of us would find ourselves in this situation. And of course, as I just said, we are surrounded by spirits. And we will be associated in communion of intentions, objectives, of virtues, and of vices. You know, the smoker will be surrounded by spirit who enjoys tabagism. An alcoholic will be surrounded by spirits who can absorb some of the sensation of drunkenness they may get from incarnate alcoholics. And the opposite is also true. Those who are involved in work of assistencialism, of charity, will be associated with spirits. We will have the sympathy of the spirits who are also interested in assistencialism, interested in charity. So we make a choice. You know, who do you want to be hanging out with us? And that will be based in our objectives, in the similarity of thoughts and ideas. Okay, next.
485. Is the affection of specific spirits of specific individuals exclusively of a moral nature? True affection has nothing to do with the material world. When a spirit attaches to a living person, it is not always through affection, because it may also be a recollection of human passions.
Thanks.
Next.
No, thanks. So true affection has not to do with the material world. It's pretty much the case that I love you, but I hate what you are doing. I love you, but I hate the way you are behaving, right? Because the two things are distincted, you know. It's like marriage. Sometimes the marriage may be for love or for convenience. We may have affection, have sympathy to individuals that is somewhat different from us, so different from the line of thinking that we have. Perhaps some of my really best, and I don't have a best friend, but a very good friend of mine, always talking and always visiting in Florida, is completely agnostic. doesn't care at all about things of spirituality or spiritual world. Um, believes the finality of everything, and that we do the best that we can over here right now. Take advantage of old situation here now, because the end is just the end. And yet we have tremendous affinity in many aspects and are very good friends. Because it has nothing to do really with the material world. There's something between us that is attractive to one another. We're very good friends, besides our differences in ideology and in terms of religion, spirituality, everything extremely different. So spirits will be attracted to us, of affection to us, the same way that for sympathy, for something beyond the physical, the material, but also because of the things that we need to work together. So when a spirit attached to a living person, it's not always through affection, because it may also be a recollection of human passions. So again, I spirits in the spiritual world that just mentioned enjoy cigarette smoking, they will associate with individuals who smoke cigarettes, because they still carry that passion to tabagism. The ones who are still very much, let's say, into classic music, one who absolutely love classic music, could perhaps seek to be associated with individuals who also enjoy classic music. And they will listen to it together because they have that affinity. They perhaps not even know each other very well. There's no other link besides classical music. And that's enough to have that attraction and affection towards one another. Okay.
486. Do spirits take an interest in our bad luck and prosperity? When we encounter troubles in life, do the spirits who wish us well mourn for us? Good spirits do all the good they can and celebrate all your joys with you. They mourn your problems when you do not bear them with resignation, because that problem produces no beneficial result. You are like sick people who refuse to take the bad tasting medication that would cure them.
So very often when Kardec or the spirits answer is those classic related spirits, they are mostly speaking of more elevated spirit. Because when you read this answer, and Kardec leaves clear over here, good spirit, right? Do all the good that they can and celebrate all your joys with you. And they mourn your problems when you do not bear them with resignation. So it's not like they feel sorry that you have problems to face. On the contrary, they are glad that it has problems to face. They are glad that we merit the opportunity to go through those problems in order to grow in order to mature. Like they mourn, they feel sorry when we don't bear them with resignation, because then we do not get the beneficial that you're supposed to get from them. That we are like sick people who refuse to take the bad taste medication, they would cure us. Good spirits. Of course, that would not be true for not good spirits. Would not hold true for a spirit who doesn't want our well-being for whatever reason. Again, misery likes company, right? Someone is completely miserable there, wants us to be miserable here as well. But when we leave this physical body, go back to the spiritual world, we continue to have empathy, continue to have sympathy towards others, and continue to want the well-being of others. And if that's true for us, of course, for higher spirits, they will feel sad for us when we drop the ball. They feel sad for us when you waste opportunities of growing, of maturing, of bettering yourselves. And they also have joy and contentment when we use those opportunities and do it well with them. So it's very possible that we may go through into the most difficult situation of our lives with resignation, in pain, crying, but going through it. And the spirits who love us out there will be celebrating that moment because they do understand the value of that experience and how much good it will do to the planet spirit. They are not so concerned with us as one single incarnation. One bad day at school, so that's okay. You can have many, many days at school. Some are going to be bad. They look at the overall academic year, not one day. So we may struggle for one day, learn from that struggle, and not repeat it again. Because once you learn, you learn. Okay, questions? 187 or 487 then?
What kind of troubles cause the most grief to spirits? Is it our physical suffering or our moral flaws? Your selfishness and callousness, because these are the roots of all your troubles. They laugh at the imaginary sorrows stemming from pride and ambition, and celebrate those that will shorten your trial. The spirits know that physical life is only fleeting and that its tribulations are the means to enable us to reach a happier state. The moral flaws that hold us back sadden them more than our short-lived physical troubles. Spirits attach as little importance to our physical problems as we do to the insignificant sorrows of childhood. Seeing the burdens of life as the means of our advancement, they regard them only as a fleeting calamity that will restore the sick to health eventually. They mourn our suffering as we are saddened by that of a friend, but appreciate them differently from their higher perspective. While inferior spirits try to drive us to anguish to hamper our development, good spirits try to inspire us with the bravery needed to transform our trials into something beneficial for our future.
So in other words, it's easy to conclude that more educated spirits are concerned with the sufferings of the 10 spirits, of the suffering associated with our lack of virtues, associated with our selfishness, with our pride. Not really concerned very much with our physical problems, not really concerned with our headaches or even an amputation of a leg. Yeah, it's too bad, but if you amputate your leg, this body gonna go away anyway. Let's see if you understand, if you learn what led to this, if you got to understand what led you to be in that situation, and how do you react to this new situation to live without a leg now? How do you resign to this difficult challenge? They are more concerned with that than with the lack of a leg per se. And of course, there's also more regarded to more educated spirits, right? Now, the opposite is true, that less educated spirit will still have the same attachments that we have to material things, to problems that we invent to ourselves, that they put over here. The left of the imaginary sorrows is stemmed from pride and ambition. Most of our problems here take away physical illnesses, right? We suffer more for the things that we don't have, the things that we have. I've never seen anybody celebrate to have the money, but you'll cry because you don't have money. You know, you have your car in the garage, but you're already suffering because your car is not as nice as your neighbor's car. You know, you're driving a Civic and your neighbor is driving a Mercedes, and you suffer because of it. Not content with being able to have and to maintain your Civic. God knows the struggle that perhaps the neighbor is having to be able to having to maintain that Mercedes. So we create those imaginary sufferings, and that's what the spirits are talking about here. That's the separation walk, right? Look at the merchandise and say, I just like to look at all those things that I don't need to be happy. If you didn't have that problem, that imaginary problems, those are the ones that the spirits don't care about. Okay, if you don't have a Mercedes, you better enjoy your Civic and you better take care of it and pay for it. But if you choose to suffer for not having a Mercedes, that's a problem. You create that. We invented that for yourself, right? And that is indeed most cause of moral pain that you suffer over here, taken aside of, again, the physical illnesses that we have along the way. Okay. 488. Oh no, we finished, huh? Sorry. Went 4 minutes over. Always bad with timing. But I guess I can finish this topic. Let's 488.
Do the friends and family who have passed on before us have more sympathy for us than spirits who are strangers to us? Of course, and they often protect you as spirits depending on their power. Are they sensitive to the affection we maintain for them? Very sensitive, but they forget those who forget them.
So very simple and easy to understand. Love is just as eternal as we are, and it is irresistible, and will outstand death. The physical body dies, we continue. So our love, our passions continues with us. And they will have more sympathy to us than average spirits. I mean, you may like children a lot, play with them equally, but your kids are your kids. They are special to you. You may like the neighbor's kids as well, but your kids is different. You got to pay great attention to your kids. And we do that here in the physical world and the spiritual world. Now, for those who are in the spiritual world, we keep remembering them here and there, and keep thinking of them here and there. They'll be with us. But once we're completely disconnected from them, with time, perhaps we'll create that separation. And that perhaps because we did not establish the degree of love that is really as eternal as we are. Perhaps a more of a passion or thing of good friend, of course, take away family over here. A good friend that perhaps will have tremendous affinity for things related to our physical world. Once one goes away, and with time, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, I don't know, perhaps we created certain disconnection. We forget them, they forget us. Just normal. All right. I'm sorry I went over. I'm really bad with keeping time. Would you make a final prayer, prayer to us, for us? All right, so I'll do it. And give thanks to our Father, for the Lord Master Jesus Christ, to the good friends of Vestige and Wine, for the assistance they received here for the first time of our study, part of our studies. And we ask that we may be inspired to retain what they have learned on those few minutes that we spent together. That we will be able to apply what we have learned here in our daily lives to the best of our abilities. We would like to extend our vibrations of love and peace, of renewed hope, of renewed faith in this time, in which Christ becomes more and more important in our lives. We pray for those suffering the consequences of man-made and natural calamities provoked by our ignorance. We pray that the peace of Christ may break down the hate, the anger, the hearts and minds that still provoke distraction, terror. That we may reunite the vibrations of love and peace for harmony, for the whole planet, for all peoples. And we ask permission to close this meeting. So be it. Come back in 5 minutes. It's